We all share the same earth and sky. And today, from the journal, Patterns, Paths, Healing, One Addict's Experience. Patterns do not liberate us, they repeat us, they keep us. They have no wisdom, there's no horizon. They keep us walking the same streets of a familiar neighborhood under the impression and the assumption that the only thing that exists is a 6 block radius, but there's not a wider world outside of that. Here on the Eastern Shore, when I was younger, they used to have this expression, which was there was no life west of the Eastern Shore. And so, because of that, the from heres weren't really willing to go there because they saw going to the Western Shore as something dangerous, or, oh, you don't want to mess with those city people. A lot of times, a pattern is yesterday's anxiety still running today's life. It was formed usually to protect us, yet it has no sense of who we are in the here and now. The 6-year-old person who was me is not the 50-year-old person that's me now. It reacts to the moment or the moment that our attention drifts, and it's trying to pull us back into these old survival shapes that no longer fit our present moment experience or present moment life. We could ask ourselves, pattern, are you dead or are you alive? Are you authentic? Are you an echo? Einstein pointed towards this observation when he said that a lot of times people, or what insanity is doing the same things over and over without getting a different result, but you're still doing it anyway because there's this strong habit energy that is basically compelling you to do it. And as a result, that's where all the suffering comes from. In Narcotics Anonymous, we describe this as looping. There's an actual sentence in step one of the step working guide that I always tend to pull people's attention towards, which is how do you know that you're stuck when you're caught in endless loops that lead to physical, mental, emotional, spiritual decay? Because what it is, it's an entropic pattern, which is this thing that's basically a downward spiral that usually results in self annihilation, whereas a centropic pattern is an upward spiral that widens and is scalable. Whereas entropic or these downward spirals, they're not scalable. It's like there's only one answer, there's not a multiplicity of answers. And so it commits us to self and other harm and a lot of unmanageability. Zen training is a path of discovering and uncovering. I can't tell you how many times Genjo Maranello Roshi would say to me, Seo, go straight on, flow. Zen training is not about polishing our patterns. It's about stepping into the way as the way. We are the way itself. We are the reality itself. It's not like reality is something that's happening to us. And so if we stay in pattern mind, it's basically you're just in the container of self, that you don't get to experience something wider or broader, expansive awareness. NA offers a similar pointer. We know that we are on the path of recovery when we are making new mistakes instead of rehashing the old ones. The way of Zen and recovery from addiction and anxiety and mind and addiction are the exact same thing for me, reveals what patterns never can. It reveals reality itself. When we sit down in Zazen, when we return to the breath and body, when we take the time to be here in what's actually happening, 360-degree noticing and awareness to what is rather than what's not. We could be a lot freer that way. So when we stay in what is actually happening rather than the mind's projection, we see a pattern for what it is, a method that the mind uses to maintain the simulation of reality instead of being the reality itself. The path is not a technique or a belief. It's the willingness to stop outsourcing our life to the reflexes and habits of mind. The path is direct experience of one's authentic, universal identity of loving presence nature. It does not decorate the moment with wishful thinking shaped by fear, worry, anxiety, and insecurity. It meets what is here for what it authentically is. And then we can use our values to navigate the present moment experience as it is for what it is, without doing make believe and make pretend and trying to fix, manage, and control everything. And when we work with the moment as it is, we begin to see the symptoms of growth and maturity. Freedom does not come from repeating the familiar. Freedom comes from recognizing the familiar as familiar and no longer having to obey it. Recognizing the familiar as familiar and saying, what if I don't have to do it today the same way that I did it yesterday? Could I take a different path? Consider. So that said, patterns loop, practice opens, patterns protect the past. The path risks everything in the present and allows for discovery and growth. But that also implies that there has to honestly be a sense of vulnerability, of no knowing, because we don't already know the answer. How many of us are honestly willing to take risks? Like we would prefer, no, I need to have the answer and I'm only comfortable with doing what's comfortable. As training deepens, we begin to live the path rather than the pattern. I want to repeat that. Comedy there. As training deepens, we begin to live from the path rather than the pattern. We live this way because we are the path itself. The path is not something that we're actually walking, we are the path. Attention settles, reactivity loosens. We respond from the compass of our values as we navigate life on its terms. What once dictated behavior becomes a faint echo instead of the steering wheel. And the reason why I paused is once in Teisho, Edo Roshi said, there's this idea that reality is like this passive canvas that we can paint ourselves onto, and life essentially has to take it. But as we make choices, reality is also making choices too. It's not static, it's not an inanimate object, and it's a living, flowing presence. And so that could be considered, and that's another reason to engage path rather than pattern. So that said, this is how the work unfolds, not by destroying patterns, but by outgrowing them through direct embodied awareness. Please interrupt the loop and make it straight. We all share the same earth and sky. The invitation is to go forward, straight on, instead of these loops that lead nowhere but physical, mental, emotional, spiritual numbness, decay, Groundhog Day. Be well.